Happy Wednesday, everybody. Jumped on a little bit early. Just to, notify people, allow people to get some time to jump on. I hope your Wednesday is going well. I hope you started off your morning right. I got in a good workout today. Got some good work done this morning. So I'm feeling pretty good. Feeling pretty good. A little tired, but pretty good. Yeah, another live event. This is the Smart, Capable, and Stuck series of Millennial Overthinker Survival Guide. Chances are, if you're here, you can relate to the title, right? Perhaps you're, stuck in life or stuck in your career, and that's what we're going to go over today. Um, Chances are you've done the work. You've journaled, you've reflected, you've mapped out the scenarios that you're in, the situations that you're in, and a path forward. And yet you feel stuck still, right? You're wondering why. Like you don't know why you're feeling stuck yet, but you almost know what's wrong already. You know what's going on, you know what step you have to take, but yet when it comes time to move, you freeze. And you might be experiencing something like this, second guessing yourself on the decisions you're going to make or the move you're going to make. You're over analyzing, and you overanalyze pretty much to the point where you just end up doing nothing. um you're consuming content, so you're looking at growth content, maybe it's professional development, personal development, but you're consuming content but you're failing to apply it. You have a fear of wasting your potential, right? That may also come with the fear of choosing wrong. So it may be something that you could possibly be working on the personal side or professional side, but yet you're fearful of what if I make the wrong decision? What if I'm not supposed to take this course? I'm supposed to take this other course. What if I'm not supposed to do, apply for this job? What if I'm supposed to be applying for this job? So you essentially just kind of think yourself into not doing anything really. And you kind of remain there and you kind of stay stuck there. And overthinking, second guessing, that fear isn't necessarily a strategy problem. It's an identity and a trust gap that you have within yourself. All right. That you have within your self image and how you look at yourself. Um, if you're anything like me, perhaps you are a high achiever. Okay. That's the people I love to work with. That's the people that I've helped before as clients. And one thing is very apparent with high achievers is that you almost want a certain level of certainty because you have big goals, you have big dreams. Like you're aiming for the sky, right? Or shooting for the stars kind of thing, right? So you have these big goals and you're essentially trying to strategize a way to, I want to say, almost guarantee, right? You want to make sure that the action you're going to take or the next step you're going to take is aligned with something that's going to work, right? You don't want to waste your time, kind of thing like that, because you're aiming for something big and you kind of crave a certain amount of certainty in that action or before you're taking that action. And let me allow me to kind of just rattle your cage a little bit. That's not where the growth happens. The growth happens in the motion. Okay. The growth happens in the action. Okay. So for my millennial audience, and I want you to consider this, we were pretty much conditioned to choose the right path. Okay. So it may look something like this. Your kid, high school, whatever it is, right? You were told something along these lines, right? And I'm going to over exaggerate this, but something along these lines. Go to school, get good grades, get into a good college, get good grades, graduate college, get your college degree, land a good job, rise to, or rate, work your way up the corporate ladder, get that great title, get the great money, buy the house, marry the girl, raise the kids, buy the dogs or get the dogs, live happily ever after kind of thing, right? Something along that lines. Okay. So that conditioning kind of already sets you up for failure. Okay. And let me kind of dive in a little bit more, right? Because I've experienced it myself, right? Where that was your parents' definition and prior generations' definition of success because it was applicable to their generation, right? I know my parents, like, if they would have went to college, kind of thing like that would have set them up a little bit different than where they are now. Okay, so that was to them, it's like, yes, this is what we should have done. We should have focused more on education. We should have got the good grades. We should have got into a good college. We should have graduated with a college degree, got the good job, things like that. So kind of that's projected onto you. And then once you get that projection, you're kind of living your life and basing your life off of that. Okay. Now, there is something that we as millennials had to deal with that prior generations didn't have to. And that is pretty much globalization. Okay. Access to the world by the internet, right? But more importantly, when it comes to you being stuck, it's you just got opened up to, man, an obscene amount of options, right? So consider your parents' situation was probably something like this. They had to choose from a college, right? They got to, okay, I'm gonna graduate high school, I'm gonna go to a college. Their choices might have been, okay, whatever is their local, obviously, right? Maybe within the state, maybe they're looking at something out of state, but they're not researching 1,000 colleges. Okay, they're trying to probably break down the next 10 or the top 10 that they want to kind of pursue and stuff, right? To you, you can go online college, you can go to a university, you can go to different types of certification programs and things like that. So your options are just like abundant, right? Which is great. Don't get me wrong, but it can also cause you to be in a state of analysis paralysis. It can also cause that FOMO or that fear of missing out, right? What if I pick the wrong college? What if I'm not supposed to go there? What if I'm supposed to do a certification rather than a college? What if I just wait a year and do this internship program or externship program or things like that? Like, there's so many things that having that level amount of options is going to do to you, right? Especially if you're still with the identity that you have to kind of follow suit on that success path. Okay. And let me give you a little story real quick on my experience with this. So how I spent $10,000 to learn a lesson. Okay. And keep in mind, I won't say it's a mistake. It wasn't a mistake because I learned a lesson and it was a great lesson to learn. So I ended up ignoring my inner voice because I didn't trust myself. I didn't trust myself. I didn't trust the decisions I was making. Essentially, I didn't trust and take the time to pause enough to understand my capabilities and my ability. Okay. And that's where I kind of went in my path of when I started my business, I was new to it, obviously, right? I come from 17, 18 years of operations management and logistics, supply chain, distribution, things like that, from leading small teams to big teams. And so I've never had the entrepreneurship experience, right? This is all new to me. Okay. So I never had that experience. So now I'm kind of going into something. I'm like, how do I start this? Where do I start? How do I do XYZ kind of thing? Because obviously I'm going from, I don't have a team. This is all me. Like I said before on a previous live, I had to learn how to use this software to go live on LinkedIn. I had to learn how to manipulate, like, the text on here, the captions on here, and things like that. I had to learn all this stuff. Okay. With that learning, though, I got to a point where I was, in a sense, over analyzing a lot. Okay. And being the ambitious, you know, highly driven person that I am, I have big goals for my company. I have big goals for what I want to achieve and do. If you've never checked out my LinkedIn, one of my goals on my about section is my milestone would be to pivot 100,000 millennials into their calling. Okay. That's a pretty big goal to achieve, right? So part of that, I wanted some kind of level of certainty when I first started my company. And what I ended up doing is I researched and researched. I looked up articles. I watched YouTube videos. I, read certain publications like on Harvard Business Review, things like that. And just kind of talk to people and trying to figure out how I start my business, how I do my business. Okay. I had an idea. Don't get me wrong. I had an idea. I had a strategy, right? But it was just the lack of trust in myself, right? I felt like maybe this isn't working out because I'm not seeing results. Maybe this isn't working out because nobody's responding to me or nobody's trying to book a consultation call with me or things like that, right? So I started double guessing myself and then I started, over analyzing what I was doing. Then I started getting that fear of, man, I'm wasting my time. I'm wasting my potential right now. What if I choose the wrong thing? And, kind of spiraled out of control there. So what I ended up doing was I hired a company. I saw their program and they're like, hey, we'll help you build your coaching business. We'll help you build your coaching program. We'll help you build pretty much your copy and your materials and everything like that to get you going, to get you started, right? Spend $10,000 on it. Truth be told, I didn't like the tactic. I've had a conversation with this with a couple of people on LinkedIn about it. I didn't like the tactic, or I didn't like their tactics, okay, on how to do business. But why I say it wasn't a mistake is because it showed me what I don't want to do. Okay. It specifically showed me what I am not trying to do in my business, the person that I am not. Okay. And essentially, it got me here. Okay. I built my new cohort program. I'm building my masterclass right now that will be pretty much available soon. I built all that on the back of paying $10,000 to learn what I don't want to be doing in my business. So that's why I say it's not a mistake. Okay. And once you get to that point, right? And I had to learn that the hard way. Okay. But what happens when, sorry, what happens when you start second guessing yourself, you start overthinking, you're going through that whole process, right? When you are stuck in that state of just waiting to make a decision, that indecision slowly starts eating away at your trust. So you're like slowly losing trust in yourself to actually make a decision. Okay. I had a client that sat on an idea hmm, for 2 years. Okay. For 2 years that she wanted to do something. She was thinking about it, strategized about it. She had an idea of how she wanted to do it. She had an idea of how she wanted to run it, and who she wanted to serve. Like she had her avatar, everything. And then what happened was she just sat on that idea for 2 years until she got with me. We kind of worked out a plan and we figured out where it was. And it was fear that was stopping her. Okay. It was fear that was directly stopping her. And once we figured out and strategized a plan, she moved ahead. So the truth being is that the longer you wait to make a decision, the more you're eroding or like losing that trust in yourself to actually make decisions. Okay. It's almost like you're telling yourself, like, you've waited so long. I don't trust you to make a right decision anymore. I don't trust your decision making skills. I don't trust what we're going to do next. And it just starts eating away at you. You start getting to a point where you just start double guessing, second guessing, over analyzing everything you do because you're just not taking action. And what that leads to is that overthinking, that over analyzing, that fear and everything, it leads to misalignment between who you've been and who you are currently now. Okay. And that's where that identity shift comes in. All right. Depending on what you're working on, like for me, for my example, right? The $10,000 example, for me, I was still identifying as the old John, not the new John. Okay. The new John was trying to do something different, trying to, pretty much outside his comfort zone, outside his realm. You've never done this before. This is a whole learning process, learning experience. But the new John didn't take the time to kind of go back and have a conversation, I guess you can say, right, with the old John. Oh, snap. Hold on, guys. Sorry. I forgot to plug in my laptop, guys. Hold on. Woo. That would have been crazy. Okay. So because of that, because that old John didn't go back and have that conversation, or that new John didn't go back and have that conversation with the old John, right? There's no way of telling new John, hey, trust your decision making process, right? Trust it because you've done this for years already. You've made bad decisions, yes, but you've also made great decisions. So trust that process, keep going through it, right? That's where that identity shift comes in, where you need to have that conversation of who you've been with and you need to understand who you are now and kind of figure out how to tie those together, right? Because essentially, like, it's going to look like this. What Remember that you're always fighting against your brain. Your brain is trying to protect you, right? So when you have that next goal, that big goal, whatever you're trying to hit, you're going to have an identity mismatch, right? With where you are and where you want to be. Okay. What happens is your brain starts to panic. Your brain starts to, like, oh my gosh, like, what are we doing? This is uncomfortable. I don't want to. This is going to hurt. This is going to be painful, whatever it may be, right? And then the longer you delay that action, it starts killing that new identity. Okay. Just like I said, that new identity of me had to talk to the old me to really kind of empower that new identity to take more action. Okay. So, in the sense of whatever you're chasing, whatever that next goal is, whatever that big goal is, whatever that next step is, okay, the key is to take action, right? Don't wait for a guarantee, okay? Because the truth is, there is no guarantee. There is no guarantee. It can be the best possible case scenario, and there is still no guarantee that whatever you're going to do is going to work, okay? You just have to take action. But with that, trust your capabilities and trust your ability. And the only way to do that is to build that confidence within you with action. Okay. And you might ask yourself, like, well, John, that sounds great and all. How do I start doing that? That is what we're going to go into right now. I'm going to give you 3 easy steps to to essentially get you to start taking those little steps that's going to help you start building that confidence, to reinforce that you are capable and that you are able to make this step, to make this progress. Okay. So, step one being the 2-minute rule by James Clear. Okay. If you don't know who James Clear is, he's an author, he's a great writer for Stoicism, and he has habit building, right? So he focuses a lot on habit building, but his 2-minute rule, you can kind of flip it. Yes, it's kind of habit building, but you can kind of, I don't want to say flip it, but modify it to make decisions. Okay. So what that'll do, what you want to try doing with this 2-minute rule, is lower the barrier to action. So your brain can, like, almost just bypass that resistance, that, that fear or the over analyzing or whatever it may be that kind of pops up to get you to procrastinate. Instead, use the 2-minute rule to build that habit, or put yourself in, like, a barrier where it's like, I got 2 minutes to take action, go, right? So it may look something like this. Like, if you want to apply for a role, right, for a new role, and you start feeling like, okay, what do I need to do? How about just doing this? For the next 2 minutes, you're going to update your LinkedIn headline, right? You're thinking about starting a little side project, okay? Instead of, like, going into it before you, like, get the fear, get the over analyzing, get, overwhelmed with all that, just simply go, hey, in the next 2 minutes, I'm going to log into this website and I'm going to buy the domain name. That's it. That's your action taken, right? If you start getting to a point where you're like, okay, I need to start networking more for my business, right? Or I need to start networking more just professionally, right, within my industry, but I'm scared, and you start going through the whole process of, you're over to analyzing, what should I wear? Should I hand out business cards? Should I talk to everybody? What if people don't like me, that they don't want to talk to me? Instead of going through that, right? Start small and start with the 2 minute rule, right? Log into LinkedIn, send one DM in 2 minutes. That's it. That's the action. So those small little actions will start rewiring your brain to bypass that barrier, right? Before your brain starts kicking in and telling you, hey, we're scared. We don't like this. This is uncomfortable, whatever it may be. That 2 minute rule will help you bypass that. Okay. I would love to hear from you if you are on here live and watching. I would love to hear if this resonates with you. If you feel like step one can easily be done today, right? Like if you can start that today and start implementing it, I would love to know. Drop it in the comments, like just even a thumbs up or whatever. Okay. Next is step two. I've talked about this in previous lives. It is a very effective tool. It's to track your follow through. So your proof file. Your proof file is just simply every time you get a win, small wins, large wins, did something that you didn't want to do, perhaps, like things like that, right? You break it down, and put it in a proof file. So that can be done like on the notes on your phone. It can be done if you want to carry around a journal with you or anything like that. um if you want to record little short messages on video for yourself, right, and save them to a certain like folder called proof file, something like that. But essentially what you're doing is you're pretty much showing yourself that you can make good decisions, showing yourself that you can take action. All right, because there will be times where you come up, right, and something has happened and you're kind of doubting yourself again, or you get to another point where you're like, man, I tried the 2 minute rule, it didn't work. It didn't work. This is very scary for me. I don't want to, go forward with this or anything like that, right? That's when you can go and kind of access your proof file and show yourself, hey, look, we've gotten through things before, we've taken action, we've grown from these things before. You got this, right? So an example could be like, I trusted myself. I was qualified and I applied and I got an interview, right? That could be in your profile, that it shows you that, look, I took a bold step. I didn't think I was going to be qualified for it, but you know what? Did the 2 minute rule. I started updating my LinkedIn headline. From there, you know what? I started just getting momentum. So the headline went to, hey, update my executive summary. Then it went to update my latest job. Then it went to changing certain keywords. Then it went to this and it went to that. Then I just decided I'm going to upload my resume and apply to this job. And guess what? Now I got an interview. That's on your profile. That shows you, that tells your future self, right, when you hit those marks, that, hey, you can do this, right? It could be something as simple as, I was scared to speak up and I spoke up at a meeting. Okay. And when I did that, my colleagues and even my senior managers told me that I added tremendous value, right? That's showing you that your voice is valuable, that your ideas are valuable. Okay. That's, you put that on your profile to show you, maybe next time, hey, you spoke up last time, speak up again. You spoke up last time, speak up again, right? It's building that confidence in you, it's building that ability in you, and it's reinforcing that you are capable. Okay. So, step two, track and follow through. Let me know in the comments if you are watching this. I would love to know if you have this already. If you're planning on doing this, I have a proof file. If you want some tips, I can give you some great tips on how to get the best, I want to say, feedback from your proof file. If you want to really try this and you're really going to commit to it, I would love to know. And like I said, if you want some guidance on how you can get the best feedback from this, let me know. Drop it in the comments or send me a DM um, on here, and I'll reach out to you and I'll share it with you. I'll see what you're doing, and then I'll share how I get tremendous feedback from my profile. All right. And lastly is step number three. Step number three is identity anchoring. Okay. So this one is a little bit harder, but it kind of pushes you a little bit forward, right? So it goes back to that example of what I said from new John talking to old John, right? Or old John talking to new John kind of thing, right? So instead of asking yourself like what should I do in a certain situation, a certain scenario, right? Instead, re recalibrate that question to who am I becoming and what would they do? Okay, so it'll shift it kind of like shifts your perspective to alignment rather than trying to like problem solve, right? Yes, you are problem solving, but in a sense, you're asking yourself, what would the vision of future me do in this situation? So it could here, let me throw something at you. It could look something like this, like from the example I gave before of speaking up in a meeting, right? Should I speak up in this meeting? That's an old question, right? That's maybe an old thought that you were sitting there, you're in the meeting, you're listening in, you're attentive and everything like that. And you're asking yourself, should I really speak up in this meeting, right? Instead of asking yourself, should I speak up? Ask yourself, okay, who am I becoming and what would they do? So you start going through that process. Okay, I'm becoming a confident leader. I'm becoming a leader that voices their opinion, that voices their perspective, that's confident in what they say, and that's helpful to the team. So then you ask yourself, what would they do right now? The action that they would take right now is they would speak up and they would share their perspective. Okay. And slowly that starts taking your mind from stop thinking like old me and start thinking like new me. Okay, you're shifting your perspective, you're shifting your image, your identity completely to this new person, not the old person. Okay, this one is a little bit harder to do, I will say. Okay, but if you get started like with the 2 minute rule, you get that proof file going, those are only going to reinforce this identity anchoring. Okay, it's small baby steps, but it's still steps forward. All right, those two will reinforce your identity anchoring where the identity anchoring should start getting to the point where it's almost, I wouldn't say instant, but it's top of mind. Okay. So those would be your three steps that you can be taking right now to get yourself from that smart, that capable, but I'm still stuck situation to getting yourself to start taking action. All right. Remember, you're overthinking you're overthinking because you aren't trusting yourself to build or to take the right actions, right? But because you're outside of that comfort zone, you're trying to maybe build something big, okay? You got to kind of either take a step back and look how capable you have been and your abilities that you've been able to overcome certain things in your career and in your life, all right? But remember that confidence only comes after the move. You can't grow that confidence if you are not moving, if you are not doing something to build confidence in you. And that confidence is going to come in that sense of taking action to reinforce that you are capable and that you are able to take on whatever it is you're going to take on next. Okay. I hope this helps you. And please let me know if you're going to use, check it out. I'll do it again. Step one, the 2 minute rule by James Clear. Step two, track and follow through the proof file. Or step three, identity anchoring. My recommendation, if you're truly stuck and this is very new to you, just simply start with step one. Step one, build to step two, finish off with step three. You'll see that whole new, completely different person at the end of this. All right. And I want to leave you with this. You're not stuck because you don't know. You're stuck because you don't trust yet. Start taking that action to build that confidence. All right. It's all through action. It's not going to magically appear for you. It's not going to just one day you're going to wake up and be like, you know what? I feel extremely confident today. Remember, the more and more that you wait in indecision, the more you are lacking trust in yourself to make a confident and clarified like decision. Okay. You're losing that trust in yourself to just take that next step. So stop waiting and just start doing. All right. If you learned something from this, if you enjoyed this, I would love to hear your comments. I would love to hear what step you're going to do. If you got a question, feel free to DM me, share this with somebody, maybe a friend, maybe a relative, coworker that may be feeling stuck right now. And especially if you're a millennial, I would love to hear if what your success story, right, was, that conditioning that you had early on. I've had a couple discussions with some millennials relate, some millennials, they didn't really have that success story. They had a different version. So I would love to hear from you. I'm always open to chat with millennials. So appreciate it, guys, and thanks for checking it out.